Hey there. So today we've got another circuit session video for you. It's been a few weeks since I posted the last of these. No great reason for that. I mean, I went on a vacation to Colorado for a little while. It was fantastic, beautiful up there. Let my buddy's 6-year-old daughter play with the circuit. I brought it with me. I was planning on maybe filming a session or two while I was there, but I just didn't really have the time. Busy doing other things, no big deal, but I did let my buddy's 6-year-old daughter play with it. She loved it, and we had a good time together, just messing around. So that was cool. But I definitely wanted to get back to doing this. I've also been making some other videos for my channel. I did a couple cooking show sort of test shoots, and I'm doing some Let's Plays, which has been fun. But good to be back on the circuit here, making music again on the channel. For this one, I had a tune in mind when I decided to make the video, but it had been a while since I recorded, and I didn't have everything set up. So I was trying to keep the tune in my head, or the idea in my head, while I was getting everything all set up and ready to record. And I did. I kept it in my head up until I had to look for an empty session on the circuit and had to hit the, the only way to tell, really be sure, is to hit the play button. And listening to some of those random recordings by that 6-year-old just wiped that idea right out of my head. I almost gave up, but then I decided to persevere and just came up with something on the spot here that had nothing to do really with the idea that I initially set out to record, which I still can't remember what that sounded like. No big deal. The ideas are a dime a dozen. It's execution that counts. So here I decided to just kind of, I don't know, I just came up with like a bass line here, sort of a theme, and it's a little slow at the outset here, honestly, getting going, because I was trying to just figure something out that sounded good. I was also not sure the best way to get it recorded, so I kind of screwed around. I had something like that was the basic idea that I had in my head, but that wasn't quite the this one, it came out, I'm still trying to figure out, it ended up being a 5-bar pattern, which doesn't seem right. So I'm thinking somehow I was like off on the grid or something. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Because I had a hard time just figuring out where things lie on the grid here, and then B, it came out to be 5 bars long, which just nothing's 5 bars long. So I think somehow I'm not sure what I did here, but it ends up sounding okay. Take my word for it. At the end, we'll play the whole thing back for you, a little sort of mixed down. It did come out okay. Not my favorite thing I've ever done. But, again, like really the idea with these is just to get something in the box, Each one of these that I do makes, I learn a little bit about working with the circuit and different ways of kind of making it do what I want it to do musically. Different ways of, just manipulating it, etc., both sounds and the sequencer. So, it doesn't really matter that the final product wasn't amazing. It's not bad, I think. You be the judge. So that's getting close to what I was shooting for here. Now I'm just trying to like get that groove in my head and add a fourth measure, which I thought was going to be the last measure. Somehow it ends up extending into 5 measures. Let's see what happens here. Maybe watching it back, I'll see what's going on. I haven't watched this or even listened to it since I recorded it last night. So we'll see. That's you could kind of hear there what I'm trying to do. Sort of like a little breakdown at the end of this pattern, almost like a slap bass kind of feel. I was having a hard time figuring out. I think I was in D minor here ultimately. I probably should have thought harder about what key I was in earlier on. I would have had to guess less at some of these notes. Of course, I guess alternatively, or on the other hand, if I'd had a real idea in my head of what I was doing here, I screwed up and recorded over my line instead of waiting for the empty measure. Now I got to go through and delete all those lower notes that I didn't mean to add. I've said this before. One of the things I like about working with the circuit is that it's less traditional, kind of layout approach to music making. I think leads to finding new ideas that you wouldn't maybe find if you were playing on a more conventional instrument or DAW. And I guess that applies to my having figured out earlier that I was in D minor. I wonder if I am in D minor, because I don't think there's a B flat that I'm ever playing. So it might be like a harmonic minor or something? Or a Dorian? Dorian. I think I might be playing in D Dorian. I don't know. Doesn't really matter, obviously. But my point is that, the better you get as a musician, I really believe that the better you get as a musician, the harder it is to really be truly creative, because really becoming a better musician means kind of learning technique through practicing kind of the same thing over and over again in one way or another, which also means that you're kind of building yourself a box. You're kind of defining grooves in the road that are difficult to get your wheels out of then. And you do it for a good reason, because you want to make music that sounds like music and not, just like noise. And that's not an easy thing, honestly. But, that's kind of the tragedy of it, or the trade-off is the better you get as a musician. I think this is true for most musicians, that the better you get technically as a musician, the harder it is to really effectively be creative. And that's what I'm enjoying about working with the circuit, is that I can use some of my musical acumen when working with it. Some of it applies, absolutely, but then some of it doesn't really apply that well, and that's actually, although that can be frustrating, it's also kind of freeing in a way, and that's cool. But here I got the bass line down, I think, the way I want it, and now I'm looking for a good sound. So here's where I decide that that little breakdown thing in the last measure wasn't long enough, and I needed a whole nother measure to do it. So this is where I made the decision to make this pattern 5 bars long, even though it just didn't feel right. But it sounded right. I use that one too often. That sounds kind of like an 80s like slap bass synth patch, you know, like on a Yamaha DX7 or something. That sounds cool. That's a good performance knob there for this patch. Just an envelope sweep, I think. Here I decided to use one of the really cool features of the circuit, which is you can record automation so easily into your patterns. So I'm recording my turning of the knob here, which is neat. I wanted to get a seamless, transition here, so I used my other hand to stop recording, and that sounds pretty cool. It's like a, sort of like an automatic envelope filter, but obviously we're doing it by hand. I guess like a wah pedal almost, like using a wah. So here I'm just trying to find something else to do over this bass line. Maybe some chords would be nice, I'm thinking. Sort of a keyboard part, piano part. Here I find the 2 chords I think I want to use, which looks like, well, so I guess I'm not in D Dorian. That looks like an F major to me, or D major, sorry, and this is a G, I think. Oh, so just 1, 4, that makes sense. I wasn't thinking about that when I was playing this. I was just looking for something that sounded good. But looking at what I'm playing there, right? That's a D, and that's the other one's a G. Yeah, that's a G there. And that's a 1/4 progression, very straightforward, nothing earth-shattering. I think here I was thinking to myself, is this thing really 5 measures long? And I think I decided, yeah, it kind of is. Oh yeah, right, I tried to see, could I make it, would it sound better if it was 6 long? Because 6 just feels better than 5. Or 4, I tried here, 4, I guess, looks like is what I'm trying here. I was just having, conceptually a problem with, the idea that this was really 5 bars long. So I tried to get rid of that 5th bar and shorten it, and I didn't like it. So I went back to the 5 bar. Luckily, I was able to successfully figure out how to use the duplicate and clear buttons successfully to move things around so that I can do a non-destructive edit there. So for whatever reason, no good reason, on this one I went with playing just the stock sounds on the 2 synths and then selecting a sound once I already had a part recorded. I think generally I prefer working the other way around, where I pick a sound and then play it, because, you know, different sounds respond to your playing differently, and you might want to kind of customize. You might want to kind of cut. I forgot to give myself enough room here. Pattern-wise, I'm going to need 5. You know, different sounds respond differently to the way you're playing, and, you know, how long you hold the notes, etc. Usually I like to be playing the sound that I'm going to be using. But again, in this case, I went the other way around, and I think it came out all right. I do give it a more interesting beat here eventually, I promise. Here we're looking for something better. So I kind of like this one. It's like a, I don't know, I think it sounds kind of like a combination between an organ and a clavinova. Kind of cool. I can't stress enough how important it is that you mess with the knobs on this box if you got one. That's where a lot of the magic lies, honestly. You know, you play the stock sounds and just right out of the box, I mean, you might not be that impressed, but you can really find some cool, you know, combinations of set parameters here for these sounds, and there's a lot of flexibility. You know, these knobs give you a lot of flexibility to change these tones around. Obviously, you know, on top of the fact that there's tons of, or at least a good number of, you know, live patch libraries out there designed by other people, and some even from Novation. And you can get the editing software too, which I have, but I haven't really messed around with other than just start it up and look at it. You know, my point being, a lot of flexibility on this box. It's really cool. So here we ditched the kind of clav notes of this same patch. We haven't changed patches. Now it sounds a lot more like an organ than a clav. Yeah, this is coming along pretty good. Time to work on the drums. We'll just delete our pattern that we left there for ourselves. Wow, it really sounds thin without it, doesn't it? I'm not the greatest finger drummer in the world. I think I'm okay at it. Circuit automatically quantizes to the nearest 16th note at anything you play into it, which helps a guy like me who's not great at finger drumming. Already, that sounds, you know, it's not that different than the bass drums on the one, but that little, you know, syncopated clap in there makes it sound a lot better, I think. layering on another beat here, like I've done in other videos. Pretty solid technique for getting a fatter sound out of your circuit. It's 4th of July weekend as I'm recording this. Happy 4th to all of you in America, and happy summer day to the rest of you in the world. Alright, so this is sounding pretty funky, pretty good. Maybe we get some hi-hats in here. Just kind of mess around, find a good hi-hat rhythm. That. But I forgot to set my pattern length. Alright. Here we go. Try that again. There we go. Yeah. It's grooving pretty good now. This last track here is dedicated to Cuckoo, YouTuber, makes a lot of great music videos. One of my favorite YouTube musician guys. He's great at just doing these kind of random noise tracks, but that loop and actually have like a rhythm to them. So that's, you know, kind of my loose idea that I was going for on this track. And the mix down at the end, I solo this track. You can hear a little better how random they really sound. Here it's just kind of adding texture, I think, because you can't really hear it in any serious way. But I think it does add some nice texture. Add a little delay, a little reverb and then delay, I think is how I do it. Yep. Add a bunch to that noise track. Sounds good. I'm using the shortest delay they've got just to thicken things up a little bit on both of the synth tracks. Just a tiny bit on the bass line, more on the keyboard line. Fix the mix a little bit. That key line was a little loud. And this is pretty much it. I'll reset and play a little mix down for you out here. Thanks for watching.